Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Arkansas Football Report with Otis, Kirk. I'm Jason. I want to thank you guys for jumping on. It's April 14th, 10 a.m., and we've got a lot of stuff in store for you today as far as the spring game, what we saw, what fans saw, and what everything that entailed that with Taylon Green named as your quarterback one and going into fall camp. And I'm going to tell you what, that running back room is pretty freaking stacked. So let's bring him on. Otis, how's it going, my guy?
Hey man, doing good.
So yesterday, red team kind of squashed the white team yesterday. If I do believe it was 38-12.
Yeah,
And I know that the red team's going to be eating good tomorrow morning. It's something that I feel like the team has kind of embraced, where they found the coaching staff found something that they could kind of rally around and have a healthy competition with around breakfast of all the things. And it's nice to see that.
yeah, they've done that. They've done that in the past. I remember, I think it was Holtz or somebody did that back in the old
Mhm.
days when they had a red white game. One to eat something, the other one to eat, maybe steak, and the other one to eat Franks or something like, beans or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I was glad they went to the game format instead of just a scrimmage. That is
Mhm.
so much more better when they have a game like they had yesterday. And yeah, I mean the red team was up 32-0 at halftime. They set the starters down after that. So, but they were truly dominating on both sides of the ball. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was better than a scrimmage anytime. I'll take that
Yeah.
over a scrimmage anytime.
Yeah. After the last two scrimmages that we sat through there in the stands, it was nice to see some competition again. Not, I know that we kind of saw that, but it felt like it was more of a practice feel, and I really didn't want this to be a practice feel. Like it felt like a legit game in some aspects,
Yeah.
and it wasn't the whole okay. Now we're going to go to down and distance type stuff. This was you have a chance to stop this team. This is what you have to do, and it honestly is a better product for fans too because they're able to be engaged the whole entire time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there was no doubt it was better for fans. I mean,
Mhm.
there was I'm glad all this stuff was open to the fans this spring, these three scrimmages or two scrimmages in the game. But yeah, I was surprised, maybe a little surprised more people weren't out there yesterday. I mean, it was beautiful weather, but I
Yeah,
understand you got other things to do and stuff. But whatever, it was good that they had a chance if they wanted to come out and watch them. Taylor Green, Jaquindon Jackson to me really stood out yesterday.
they really did. Speaking of the running backs, you've got Braylon Russell, you got Jaquindon Jackson transfer from Utah. Um, we'll bring up another running back towards the end of the show, but for the folks that they have in the room right now, you feel like there was no drop off from last year. You see Rocket Sanders leave.
Yeah,
Um, Dominic Johnson seems like he's running a little bit better than what he did last year. With
yeah.
just the time aspect itself, it's helping him heal better or a little bit
And Dom,
more.
yeah, Dominic's probably getting more healthy. I mean, the longer he goes
Mhm.
after his surgeries, the longer it is after his surgery, he should be feeling better. Dominic's just a steady hand back there. You put him back there, you know what you're
Mhm.
going to get, and he's not going to hurt you. He never has hurt that team, and he's a guy that can help you. He's a very, very reliable third, fourth team back, and they're lucky to have him. I mean, because I thought his career was finished after that second knee injury. He injured both of them,
Yeah.
real serious knee injuries to both knees. And I thought, well, he's finished, but he defied that, and he's anything but finished. So they're lucky that they're forced to have a kid like Dominic Johnson who just hangs in there, offers a steady performer, plays when he's asked to, and that's very valuable. And he's doing a good job. Doing a great job, actually.
Yeah. Dominic, he had 2 carries for 8 yards yesterday, but like you said, with Jaquindon Jackson, he had 9 carries for 69 yards, two
Yeah.
touchdowns. He also had a pitch and catch from Taylon Green for 15 yards, and that really kind of put the score up, 32-0. And that's when you kind of started, like you said, the starters were starting to filter out at that point.
Yeah.
Um, And I noticed that in the press conference yesterday, it was asked of Sam if this is something more that you could see from Jaquindon moving forward, and he's almost a 3-down back for you guys for Arkansas now.
Yeah. Yeah, Jaquindon can catch football. He said that he's underrated in that aspect, but yeah, he can catch football. I mean, he went to Utah as a quarterback, but that kid's just a ball player. He's tough, man, and he is. I guarantee you, you're not going to arm tackle him. You're going to have to wrap him up to get him down because he'll go through arm tackles one after another. He's just he's that way, and he really he's tough to bring down, man. He's a physical, hard runner, and I think the more physical it is, the better he likes it. He told me he hates stud practices. He doesn't want the defensive guy to think he won. He won.
Yeah.
He feels like he can break those tackles, and he can, and he's good, man. I mean, I'm really impressed with him. Probably more so with him than anybody else from the beginning of spring to the end. I didn't know what to expect from him as much. Talon's outstanding, but I knew pretty much what he was going to be. But I didn't know Jaquindon was as good as he is. And Braylon Russell's really coming on too. Braylon had that 32-yard touchdown run yesterday. He's really coming on. So they're sitting in good shape right now at running back.
What all helps with that too is also the offensive line. There's a story out that's on Hogville. It's also on Pig Trail Nation. With the addition of Keyshawn Blackstock, Fernando Carmona Jr., and also with Addison Nichols, one of the things that you see is they've kind of melted those three guys with Pat Kudis and with Josh Braun. Josh Braun yesterday, he was in the press conference. Talk a little bit about kind of how he was exuding what this offensive line looks like now from what it did last year.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's not even close to what it was last. I mean, it's not even close to what it was last year. They really hit on those three kids out of the portal, which is unusual to hit much on all three of them. But last year, the offensive line couldn't really protect, had trouble run blocking. And this year, there was holes for the running backs. There was Taylor Green. He pretty much stayed clean the whole spring. I mean, we were out there. He got sacked a few times, but it wasn't anything like in the past where they were, like KJ running for his life last year about the time he got the ball. You didn't see that with Taylor, and he had much more time. I think what's happened is they've got three really good players from the portal. Then you got two guys who are older from last year. Kudis is also playing a position he's better at guard than tackle. Yeah. I mean, he's an inside player. I think he was playing tackle out of necessity, but they've really done well. And to hit on all three of those kids out of the portal, like I said, to that degree is unusual and impressive.
Yeah, everybody, I want to thank y'all for jumping on with us this morning. A little bit of an early edition here. Grab some coffee and sit down with us, and whatever questions you guys have, throw those up. We'll get those answered for you. Make sure also to like and subscribe to hogville.net on YouTube as well. Follow all of the free stories on hogville.net, and follow us also on social media with Twitter and with Facebook. So with Taylor Green, and it seems like he's really fit well into Bobby's system that he has here. And Bobby, I mean, from the get-go, when Taylor came out of high school, Bobby felt that this was a system that would fit him really well. We're really starting to see Bobby's vision of what he had for Taylor coming out of high school.
Yeah, I was just talking to my son before we went on the air, and I said, one thing that I've noticed with Taylor Green, working with Coach Petrino, who, by the way, everybody knows I think is the best offensive coordinator in college football. But the one thing I've noticed with Taylor, it seems like he's cut down on his interceptions. That was an issue at Boise State last year, and it seems like he's really cut those down big time under Bobby, which I expected him to do, and it appears it's working.
Yeah. Wes Brown, we're going to get to your question in just a minute. We're going to get to the defensive side of the ball here in just a minute, and Were there any injury updates that Sam was able to give after the game?
I got out pretty good. David Dozier, I think, fractured his wrist, I believe. Dozier has fractured wrist. But he said there wasn't anybody he didn't expect back by the time that they start practicing, in 2 days. Wasn't anybody, they had a physical spring and they got through it without anybody getting real serious injury. That would be something that limit them next fall when camp starts, So, the worst one was Zuri Madison had that scooter wreck, and hurt his, got hurt in that. But that's not really football. That's Zuri had an accident on a scooter. So, I think they came out pretty well. I know they came out pretty good out of spring football. Injury wise, nothing to limit them next fall. Now, it doesn't mean somebody can't get hurt this summer or weird things happen with scooters and cars and stuff like that. But football wise, they came out really well on the injury front, except for Dozier, of course. But that fracture wrist, that'll heal, and it won't, be something that keeps him from playing. It won't hurt him. It won't prevent him from like working out and stuff, and staying in condition. He can still run with fractured wrist. So it's nothing that would hurt his conditioning or anything like that.
So we're talking a little bit about the offensive side of the ball, and I want to touch on this before we get to the defensive side real quick. Drake and I were talking about this during the game yesterday. Arkansas is going into this season with a wide receiver group that has got more catches, a ton more catches than they did last year. Because if I'm not mistaken, they were going into the season with one guy that had D1 catches with Tyrone Broden. Other than that, they didn't have anybody on this roster that had a D1 catch. Now this year, you have a more experienced group with Taylor Green, and you didn't see any drops yesterday.
Yeah, I think Jaden Wilson had a few catches maybe last year going into the season, I think, but not many. But yeah, I mean, they're much more experienced there. You got basically last year you lost nearly all your top receivers. Hazelwood and Landers and all those guys left. This year you've got nearly everybody back. So I mean it's completely opposite. Broden, Armstrong, and Isaac and Satana and all those guys. I mean, and CJ Brown tore it up yesterday, man.
Yeah.
CJ Brown absolutely dominated yesterday. That kid, that 75-yard touchdown pass, he caught that ball from KJ. There wasn't anybody going to catch him. You saw separation there. I mean, he can run. And I knew he was a player. I knew he was a player at Bentonville. And he just didn't get –
great kid, too.
He didn't go take all the visits and do all this stuff and try to get offers and NIL and all the tons of stuff that – a lot of kids couldn't do. He didn't do all that, so he didn't get the publicity that a lot of kids did, but he was a good ball player. He wanted to go to Arkansas, so he went to Arkansas, so there wasn't a hype with him that maybe there should have been.
No, I really feel the same way, too. I talked with him whenever he was at Bentonville once or twice, and he's a great kid. He just wants to play ball. He's one of those players that Sam Pittman and Bobby Petrino love because he's kind of like a gym rat in a way where he just wants to go out there and he wants to keep working on his craft and get to the best of his ability. And I know the staff is going to get that out of him too, because I mean, you saw that 75-yard run. I mean, he smoked 2 DBs. He caught the ball in stride, and there was nobody that was going to catch him. I mean, he has Isaiah Satania's speed, and it could really work well for, a 5 or 4 wide offense where you've got, possibly a CJ Brown and also an Isaiah Satania in the slot with 2 outside guys. That's going to cause some really big matchup nightmares. Yeah. And that's what Bobby's looking for.
Yeah, I was just looking. I had him with 5 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown yesterday. So, and we always know one of them was 75-yard touchdown, but 5 catches for 108 yards, that's pretty good average. And he's good. he's going to be real good for them. I mean, just another player fitting that group,
Yeah. And so let's switch to the other side of the ball real quick. I'm going to bring up Wes Brown's comment really quick. What did you think of TJ Metcalf yesterday?
Metcalf's stud. He's
Mhm.
TJ. Somebody that loves to play the game. He's kind of like Jaquindon, and the more physical it is, the better he likes it. But TJ is just a big time player. I wanted to get over and request him to come into the room and talk to us, and I didn't get to go that day. But he's TJ's got to play some. I mean, he's really good. I believe he had 7 or 8 tackles before he got hurt there. So he was.
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you would know that. You guys were keeping the defensive stats. He was dominating over there, and I love that kid. I think he's a player. He can play. I'd like to see him get a few more reps than maybe they have. I hope he gets the reps that I think he should get. I guess it's the way to say it. I'm not going to say he probably should get more reps than I think they're going to get, because I don't know what they're going to give him, so I'm not going to say that. But I hope he gets a lot of reps, and because he deserves them. He's good, very good, and Tevis is going to be just like him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you know what? One of the things that I noticed too was the DBs were playing downhill when it come to blitzing, and the 2 sacks that were on Taylor Green yesterday were from DBs, from Jaheim Singletary, and then also who had Jaden Allen. I do believe. Hold on, let me double check here. Sacks, yeah. Snacks Johnson had one, and then Akari Johnson had one. Sorry.
Akari Johnson's just a guy that's around the ball all the time, man. He's the one who picked off that KJ Jackson pass. Akari Johnson, he had 2 interceptions in the scrimmage before that. I mean, he's a kid that just never gets his name in the media, never gets the coaches hardly ever mention him. But he's a kid. All he does is go out there and make plays, man.
Yeah, because I mean, Travis Williams and Marcus,
right time.
Yeah, and they've got something really cooking with some special players on that defensive side of the ball in the secondary, because what you notice, like for instance, whenever you've had some pretty good DBs in the backfield. I'm trying to remember the kid that transferred to Texas, off the top of my head. For the love of God, I cannot remember his name. From Mansfield. Oh crud! I even interviewed him.
Jalen Catalon.
Jalen Catalon. Yeah, mine was going blank there for a hot second. You had a lot of run support from him, and now you're starting to see that again. But now you're starting to see it from multiple spots, and the defensive secondary is doing a good job of mixing and matching that, where you're having a lot more run support in that front 7, and you don't know where it's coming from, and I know that it's causing DBs to have an island out there, but they feel pretty comfortable with that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot goes into that. And they feel more comfortable with it. I think they've upgraded the defensive backs, but I also think they feel good about this defensive line and stuff. And guys like Brad Spencer are not going to sit there and give the quarterback 100 hours to look it over the defense and throw, So I think they feel good about everything. It's the second year for Coach Williams' defense. And I think it should be noted, they've kept all 4 defensive coaches from last year. That's worth noting. For a while, the defensive line position was just a revolving door. Every year a change of coach. Changing coach, defensive coordinator, changing, But they were lucky with keeping Odom, but they changed linebacker coaches a couple of times. But they and secondary coaches kept being changed. But this year they've got all 4 of those defensive coaches back, and I think that's big, man. I really do. I think that's huge for them.
It's the continuity aspect where players feel comfortable and they don't have to keep reintroducing themselves. I mean, it's kind of like dating a girl, for instance. You have to go through the whole process of them getting to know you and you getting to know them, and then before you know it, they're out the door, and now you're doing it again. You don't have to go through that those back and forth conversations. This is conversations that you walk in and like, hey man, what's good? What did you do this summer? Not, hey, my name's so and so. How are you? Those that right there, that comfortability translates onto the field because you also know what to expect from that coach, and the coach knows what to expect from you. And going into this second year with that continuity, it's really going to pay dividends.
Yeah, it is. And continuity to me always pays dividends if you've got the right people and bringing back the right people back, and I think they do. I thought Coach Williams came in last year and did a good job. At the end of the year, they kind of gave up some yardage, sharing points and stuff. And but I felt like part of that was the offense was just so inept that the defense was on the field a lot, and And I think they lost confidence in the offense. They won't do that with Bobby Petrino's offense. So I think that you'll see a lot better. I agree with Sam. I think there's a lot better football team than they had last year. I've said that from day one. I don't even see the comparison. I think it's a lot different football team than last year. I think they've upgraded some spots on the staff. Even if they didn't upgrade, they've got now Bobby was an upgrade. Mateus, I think, was an upgrade with Cody, but Cody wasn't as bad. I just think it just wasn't working for him, whatever reason. Cody Kennedy's not a bad coach, but Bobby is definitely an upgrade. Fouch and Kobe Smith, I don't know if they're upgrades, but they're certainly not downgrades. No. I mean, they're good coaches. Ronnie Fouch and Kobe Smith are good coaches. So there you go. So I mean, I think they've done a good job. Sam done a good job of hiring the right assistants this year, I think, and that will make a difference, big time difference. But Bobby Petrino was a great hire for him.
And Michael Kepsky, this program's coming off a 4-8 season, didn't get a top 10 portal class. This team has holes. Pittman has got to step up, and I think he already has to this point. And what I mean by that is that look at the offensive line, because Bobby Petrino said this, Sam Pittman said this all last year. That's where it starts. And like we talked about at the show, that's where you're starting to see a lot of the improvement.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this guy looking at recruiting rankings and nothing else. I don't know if he even came to a practice, because if you watch Taylor Green, Jaquindon Jackson, those three offensive linemen, you watch the those the linebacker from Georgia,
Xavier Sorey.
Yeah. You look at him, and then you're telling me that's not. You're acting like that's nothing. Portal class? Come on, man. I mean, how many times do you hit on three offensive linemen out of the portal? Hit on a quarterback, a running back that comes in as ahead of Rashad Dominion now. Xavier Sorey at linebacker, I mean, Anton Junka at defensive end. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to argue recruiting rankings, because I know how recruiting rankings are done. I've worked for every company out there, so I know how they're done. And if you believe in them, fine. But I'm not going to argue about recruiting rankings, because I know how they're formed.
Yeah, because just because you've got a kid out there with a certain grade doesn't mean that grade's going to fit to that style as well. And when they come in, it's honestly, it's a 50-50 shot sometimes.
Why do you think kids get downgraded after the season's over when they're not even playing games, but they go to a different school? Why do you think they get upgraded? Because they go to a different school. Because the recruiting rankings have to match what the service wants it to be. That's how kids get downgraded or upgraded after the season's already over. They're not even playing any more games, and they've done nothing to get upgraded or downgraded, but they do. It happens. It happens all the time. I've worked for every one of those services. If you want to quote that, fine, but I don't believe it myself. So whatever.
Yep. So, going back to the defensive side of the ball for just another moment too, with the linebackers, we got, you talked about Brad Spence, you talked about Xavier Sorey. You saw Alex Sanford yesterday. He was pretty, he was pretty all over the place. It seemed like every time you saw him running around, or there was a tackle in the backfield, you saw 20 popping up every time. Or if there was not a tackle, you saw 20 chasing whatever quarterback out of the pocket. And I'm going to tell you what, I really think that there's a spot in that front seven, and you just have to, eventually you're just going to have to put him there, because his athleticism is going to dictate that.
Well, I think I think Sanford, Carson Dean, and Brad Spence, all three, I think, really changed the outlook at linebacker. Now, Sorey obviously did too. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Sorey did. Even Caden Henley's had a good spring.
Mhm.
Those guys have made them feel different about the linebacker than they did going in, because that was the biggest question mark going in. But those three freshmen from last year, I know Spence played and the other two didn't, but those three kids have all really stepped up and are going to be good ball players for them. And Danico Slaughter's another kid I didn't mention when I was talking to the transfers. I mean, big time defensive back, earned a starting spot. And then, of course, Marquise Robinson and Mikael Mitchell. Robinson was hurt and didn't get to play yesterday, but but he's looked good when he did play. So, yeah, I think they hit well out of this last portal. I worry about the kicker, but I worry about the kicker. But if he can come through, they hit a heck of a portal class. I don't care where it's ranked. But I don't know what happened to him in the stadium. They say he hits them. That wind is different, but he's got to learn to kick in the stadium, because that's where the games are.
Yeah, it is. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more kicking going on in the stadium versus at the the training facility, because
Sam said they were going to yesterday. Yeah,
because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and I'm not trying to put any kind of trying to poo-poo on a parade or anything, but wouldn't that be the most Arkansas thing ever, where you finally get the offense sorted out, offensive line sorted out, defense is playing well, and now you got the kicking that's kind of went to crap again. And that's nothing on Scott Fountain, because I mean, he's a great coach, and anybody that wants to argue with that, I will die on that hill, because he is a great coach.
Well,
but
I know how special things was before he got here. He's a very good coach. I don't get that criticism, but because he's a very good coach. But I wouldn't bet on him not getting this thing figured out at kicker. I don't know if it's the wind or what messes with Shipley when he's in the stadium, but something does, because he just doesn't look that good in there. Yeah, that's the only transfer that I've got an issue with, is the kicker. The rest of them, those are all guys that can help them, and so regardless where they were ranked, they can help this team big time. And there's some studs in that group: Taylor Green, Jaquindon Jackson, Sorey, those offensive linemen, and Anton at defensive end, and Slaughter. Those are studs. I mean, big time players. Yeah, they got work to do. We know they've got work to do. Most teams in America do this time of year. Still got work to do.
I know this is going to sound too much. It's going to sound a little odd, but is it possible that Sam might venture to the portal to look for a kicker?
I wouldn't rule anything out. I mean, if he doesn't, it depends on how. He didn't mention that yesterday when I asked the question, but I wouldn't rule anything out. I mean, he may have to. And by the way, too, talking about the 4 and 8 and not a top 10 recruiting class, hiring Bobby Petrino. Listen, part of the reason they were 4 and 8 last year was he made a bad hire at offensive coordinator, Dan Enos. He made a bad hire, very bad hire. And I said so at the time. I didn't like the hire. I don't know if I said it bad, but I said I didn't like the hire. But Bobby Petrino and the kids they signed definitely have a chance to make a difference this year.
They do.
And coming back. I mean, the kids are coming back, like Braxton and Jaden Johnson, and I mean the 3 or 4 linebackers we've already talked about. Cam Balls had a great spring. Landon Jackson, as good as it gets at defensive end. So I think he's got a lot more talent than some people want to think.
I feel like the defensive line also is kind of lost in the shuffle with all the changes that have happened on the team.
Yeah,
that's been the constant with Deke Adams, is that, okay, you got Quincy Rose Jr., which he played for most of the entire day yesterday. Another guy that a lot of people haven't had a chance to look at yet is Ian Jafar, and I'm going to tell you what, that guy is a mountain of a man. And athletic. He got his paws up there. Him and Lando both batted balls down at the line of scrimmage yesterday. And that's going to be big going forward.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's what they've got to do in the portal. They've got to get some defensive tackles. They don't have a defensive tackle in this recruiting class. They've got to get some depth there. They don't have to go get starters. They've got 4 key defensive tackles, but they need to go get some depth there numbers wise. You know, with Kiwi Rose, you've got Eric Gregory, the big kid Ian, and you've got Cam Ball. So you've got 4 that could definitely play, but you need 2 more out of the portal. They don't even have a defensive tackle in this class, high school or portal. The defensive ends are pretty good shape there with Nico and Anton, and you mentioned Quincy Rose, Landon Jackson, and others. So yeah, but they've got to get some defensive tackles. To me, I'd like to see them take another linebacker. I like what they've got there, but just one more older one, just an older guy. Maybe play some linebacker, help on special teams. I think they need that. But Sam mentioned wide receiver, but 2 offensive linemen, you know. But whatever. I just feel like that. But I feel like, I mean, I'm still thinking about your question about the kicker because I've actually tossed that around. I don't know. That would be interesting because they're weird. Kickers are weird. They just are. They're different cats. And you got to remember, they've got the #1 kicker in the nation committed for next year. See, they thought Cam Little was coming back this year. He would leave, and this #1 kicker in the country would step right into that spot.
And that'd be it.
So they're in a transition here, a 1-year transition that they weren't planning on. They really expected Cam to come back, and then this kid from high school, the kicker, come in and take his place. That was the thinking. That was the hope. That was the planning. That was everything. And then Cam announces he's leaving. They scramble and they find Shipley. And by all accounts, Shipley looked like a great pickup. His stats were great, but I don't know. There's something about that win in that stadium. Maybe that's what's messing with him. I don't know, but they've got to figure it out. That or somebody else is going to step up. I don't know if anybody else is. I didn't see anybody better than him. Calvaruso can really kick off, but I don't see him as a field goal kicker. He's inconsistent. The other guys, I don't know. I don't see it, but yeah, they've got to figure that position out. The last thing, like you said, you don't want a Bobby Petrino offense to come in here, get this thing fixed, and then go down there and miss field goals, chip shot field goals, or extra points. You don't want to go back to that. So, yeah, they've got to figure that out, man.
I think that if Sam does hit the portal and get a kicker, it's going to be like a grad student or just a 1-year guy. Just to
it'll be a 1-year deal. They feel really good about that freshman kicker. Like I said, the plan was for Cam to kick this year and that kid come in and take over and be there 4 years. Excuse me. Sorry. Be there the plan was for him to be here 4 years, Cam, and then leave and the other kid come in. He'd be here for 4 years. So let me get a drink. My throat's.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, I want to talk about the portal. You mentioned it just a minute ago. So last night, right after the scrimmage, it was pretty close to right after the scrimmage. I guarantee Isaiah probably wasn't home for an hour or two. So you kind of already knew that he had this already pulled up and done over the last couple of days. Right after the scrimmage was over with, he's announced that he's entered the portal of Isaiah Augustov. And that opens up tomorrow. And I honestly think that we might have to go back on portal coverage for you, me, and Dudley and Alyssa, trying to get all the the names that are flying around that are either coming in or coming out. Because at this point, you've had players go through spring that can't transfer once the semester starts, and they've already had that planned over the last couple of months. And I think that you're going, once this window opens, I think that you're going to start to see more names fly around again.
Yeah, I don't see a mass exodus of players, and I could be wrong. Last year they lost one after spring ball. Isaiah is a typical guy you would think, because he went from playing a lot. They changed position coaches, went from Jimmy Smith to Kobe Smith. He's third team right now. Isaiah was. They put him with the white team yesterday, which was the reserves. They put him there. So he's behind Jaquindon Jackson, and he saw what Jackson can do. He's behind Rashad Dubinion. And I'm going to be honest with you. From what I've seen, and he had a great scrimmage the other day. Oh, man. Bulldog stepped on my foot.
Oh.
50. He had a 50-yard catch and a 50-yard run, 52-yard run, or something like that. Maybe it's the reverse, but he had 2 touchdowns in the scrimmage the other day. Isaiah did, but for the most part, what I've seen, I'm not sure he was going to hold his spot ahead of Braylon Russell.
Yeah,
Braylon Russell had 32-yard touchdown run yesterday. Had much better stats. I mean, Isaiah didn't run the ball well yesterday at all. He didn't have any holes, but yeah, he looked like a player on the way out yesterday with his performance. He didn't do well at all.
Yeah, he had 6 carries for 7 yards.
Yeah.
Divinian had 3 carries for 38. And then Braylon had 6 for 40 with that touch, and 32 of those was the touchdown. What I really like to see with Braylon too is that he has the size, he has the speed. He almost kind of looks like a Jerome Bettis type out there, 6'1", 252 pounds. And the guy was busting through arm tackles. One of the DBs got a hand on his foot. He didn't even have to put his hand down on the ground, regained his balance around the 15-yard line, and then just scampered in. And when you have guys with that size and that speed, yeah, it's going to make it really hard for a guy of Augustov's size to really kind of break through into that starting rotation.
Yeah, I think that I just think JaQuindon is just so much better than everybody thought. I don't know if maybe they knew how good he was. I didn't, but he really impressed me. I mean, Rashad's steady, solid. The thing about Dominic Johnson is there's your running back that you can give him 4 or 5 carries, 3 carries, whatever. He's not going to hurt you when he's in there, And I think with Isaiah leaving, I think that opens the door for Braylon to get a few more carries than maybe he would have otherwise. And I think that's a good deal because I think maybe I'm higher on Braylon Russell than I should be, but I think his upside is way up there. And I think Isaiah is a very good running back. He showed that last year when he got to play, and he showed that scrimmage we talked about where he had those 2 touchdowns. He's very good. I'm not downplaying him, but I think they have better. I just think they've got better. I think JaQuindon's better. I think JaQuindon's better than honestly, I don't know if I would take Rocket Sanders over JaQuindon Jackson. I really don't.
I wouldn't. I think that's one of the reasons why he left. He saw the writing on the wall who was coming in.
I just don't know, man. I mean, maybe I'm too high on JaQuindon Jackson. If I am, I am. But I know that Rashad played last year, solid player. They're not going to be hurting at running back. I mean, now they got a rash of injuries there that can hurt because they've got 4 is what they've got. But I do know there's some players that they have on the team. If they got an emergency situation, they could put them at running back. I'm not going to go into the name because I'd probably leave somebody out. But there are people that they could put at running back if they needed to because of an injury.
Yep. And, I want to touch on this really quick before we get out of here. Going into spring, Arkansas had 4 quarterbacks. You saw kind of how things have shaken out. You've seen the upside with KJ Jackson. You've seen the upside with Malachi Singleton, sorry. And you've got Jacoby Criswell who's kind of floating in there between the 2, 3, 4. And quite frankly, there's the 3 guys behind Taylon Green. You could probably put 2, 3, 4, each one of them, and still be solid with each number. But do you see Arkansas going into fall camp with 4 quarterbacks, or do you see one of those 4 heading out?
Well, I mean, that's always a possibility at that position, Jason. I mean, transferring is always a possibility at that position. Never underestimate the chance of that happening. But I asked Sam yesterday, I said, is the number 2 quarterback race going to go into the fall? Because there's some days I think Malachi is easily the number 2. There's days I think Jacoby's easily the number 2. And KJ's gotten better. So, and he said, yeah, it would go in the fall. So he's counting on all 3 of them being here. But, yeah, look, man, there's always a chance one of those hits the portal. There's always a chance. It would not surprise me at all. I don't think you'll see a mass exodus of players like we saw after the season. Last year they lost 1 after the spring game or spring practice. They lost one, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't see a mass exodus, but I could see a quarterback. Yeah, a certain quarterback or two, one leaving. I could see that. I just, Taylor's starter, and some of these kids may feel like, one quarterback might feel like he should have gotten more of a look. I don't know, but I don't know of anybody leaving. But it would not surprise me. It's that position. That's just something. That's a position where it happens all the time, all over the country.
Yeah. So you've got, Sam said, how many did he say? He's got 5 scholarships
he's got 5 available. Yeah, he said right now
makes 6.
2. Yeah, Augusta. He said if he only had 5, nobody left, he would change that wide receiver to a linebacker. But now that Augusta is gone, they've got 6, so they could take 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles, and a linebacker and a wide receiver if that's where he thinks it should go. And it'd be pretty cool if he could get a receiver who can also play a little running back too. There's a few guys like that out there, guy who can play running back, receiver, both. That'd be pretty cool to get somebody like that for that spot because, they've got, but yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, because that could be a solid weapon in Bobby's system, because we saw yesterday that hitting guys in the flat is a big part of that. Also, the screen game is a huge part of Bobby's system. We saw guys that were getting open again finally at the 15 and 20-yard mark that were wide open. And as long as Talon and whoever happens to be behind him are able to recognize that, Arkansas is going to be super hard to defend against, like you saw whenever Missouri State come in here a couple of years ago, and you had multiple guys getting open in the middle of the field, 15, 20 yards down field. And that's what he's getting back to again. Yeah,
Bobby has a way of getting people open. I don't know how he does it, man. The guy's a magician. But Bobby's the best offensive coordinator, play caller in the business, man. And Arkansas is fortunate to get him back. He's a very good coach. You don't have the record he had at Arkansas if you're not a good coach. He and Nutt had really good records. That was a 14-year stretch there where they went to 11 bowl games in 14 years, he and Houston. I know people hate on Nutt. That's fine. I mean, but I'm just telling you, the guy went to 8 bowl games in 10 years. And I mean, whatever you want to think what you want, but I'm just giving you facts. I'm giving you numbers, not some bogus rankings or something. I'm giving you actual numbers. And, but that was a good 14-year period for Arkansas. The best in the SEC, the best they've had in the SEC. I mean, not the best in the SEC. The best Arkansas has had was that 10-year of Nutt, 4 years of Petrino, that 14-year run. 11 bowl games in 14 years. That was by far and away. You look at the record of those two guys combined, by far and away the best 14-year period in the Arkansas and the SEC, by far and away.
It is. So, Otis, a little bit later on today, you're going to be with Pig Trail Nation. What do you guys have coming up?
We'll be talking some recruiting, talking to Portal for one thing. I haven't even sent them a list yet. But dealing with the portal and stuff like that, I've got baseball at 1, got recording at 1, baseball at 1, Lakers at 2:30, you at 10. So I got a busy day here on the horizon. Write some stories if we get a chance, and but yeah, we'll be talking a little recruiting at 1 o'clock there at the Big Trail.
All right.
I don't have a guest on today like I did last week. I had Mr. Metcalf on last week, TJ and Tevis's dad. I thought that offered something different. I mean,
it was nice.
Yeah, well, it gives you nobody. I can't tell you what he could tell you, and nobody else can, because if you go, but you've got 2 kids. Only the person could be Luke and Dylan's parents. That'd be the only other person. 2 kids on the team. Luke and Dylan's parents, or Tevis and TJ's parents. Dad. And so, so that it was just a natural, I think, to get them on there. But yeah, I've got some good guests coming up on there, Jason. Can we have guests on this segment, on this show?
Yeah, we can anytime. Yeah.
You could have a third person on here.
Oh yeah, it's easily have a
Okay,
third
so I
person
didn't
on
know
here.
that. We need to get. I can get some guests for this too. I've
Yeah.
been going to ask you that. I'm sorry, I asked you right here on the air.
Oh,
I
it's
guess
all
I
good.
should
No,
ask
it's
you,
all good.
but it's not like it's bad, good or bad. I'm not a. People ask me all the time how to set up YouTube and podcasts and stuff, and I say, hell, I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm on there. I don't have zero to do with setting it up. Believe me, I have
We
zero to
could
do with setting it up.
we
So,
could have up to 10 people on here at one time. I don't know if that'd
so
be,
yeah,
productive, but we could have up to 10 people.
getting
So
10
yeah.
people, getting 10 recruits on here be like getting 10 women, man. I don't know how that goes. So, I mean, whew, man, I mean, you get more than one woman, man. Yeah, I don't know about recruits either. 10 recruits,
Otis,
they'll be killing each
Otis,
other over their stars or something, man. So I don't want to do that.
Otis, if we get 10 women on the show at one time, it's going to turn this place upside down real fast.
We get one and turn it upside down. I've got one that I deal with, and that is it, Christy, and that's it. Believe me, she's the most understanding. I mean, she is the most understanding, level-headed person I know in this world, man or woman. And
Man.
I mean, I've dealt with some nuts and and they dealt with a nut with me. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, I've dealt with some crazy people, but Christy is one of a kind, man, and yeah, lucky to have her.
Well, before we get out of here, too, I want to send some thoughts, prayers to John James, our photographer.
Yeah.
He was a little under the weather yesterday, wasn't able to make it. Reached out to him, and
How was he doing?
he's struggling a little bit. Haven't heard too much else from him since, but he's under the weather. I want to, like I said, send some thoughts and prayers out to him for speedy recovery, getting feeling better, and get him out, doing what he loves as soon as possible.
John's a good guy. People don't know how he got started. Was he was sitting in the stands taking pictures at baseball. And I saw his pictures, and I'm thinking, this guy's sitting in the stands at Baum Stadium, taking as good of pictures as the people as photographers for the newspapers and stuff. I mean, he's just sitting in the stands. And so I asked him, would you be interested in taking pictures for Hogville? And he said, well, I don't know, remember exactly how John worded. He didn't know if he was good enough. I said, believe me, you're overqualified, probably, man. I mean, this guy's a great photographer, great person too. John is not just a great photographer, but John, just like everybody in that football staff at Hogville, man, just great people too. I mean, no egos, no issues with any of the football staff at Hogville. We all get along. Best group I've ever worked with. No egos. I asked you guys, do defense, do offense, do write a story, don't write a story. It's yes. No. Yeah, you guys are the best, man. John fits right in with that group, and he's as good a photographer as there is. He's very good, and we want John to get well. I know he was stressed about missing yesterday, but hey, man, I mean,
I looked at you yesterday and I said, just take care of yourself, and that goes for you too as well.
Well, like I said, listen to what I say. Don't do as I do, because Lanny called me.
Said that to me 3 times yesterday.
Person in the world. He wanted me to go to the doctor, and I like I said, listen to what I say, because I'll give you good advice. I just don't follow it myself. But I'll say go to the doctor, get checked out, and all this. But then I don't do it. But that's part of it. But I do give a good advice on that, though. But I didn't want to stressing about yesterday, because we made it without pictures, and we've probably got, I don't know. I bet I've got 50, maybe 100, maybe more pictures that we haven't even used from he's taken this spring. He's been over and taken them this spring. We haven't even used them. So, I mean, probably 100. I mean, I don't know. I could count them, but there's a bunch, and it wouldn't surprise me, because even if he made 10 of the 15 practices, one of them was closed. 2 of them was closed. That Sunday, right after spring break or right before spring break. There was one was closed, and then the Friday before the red-white game was closed. So it's 13 opportunities. And he didn't make all of them, but even if he just had like 10 pictures, we didn't use a day, that'd be close to 100. So
Yeah.
we probably do have 100 pictures not used. So yeah, and maybe more. So John's done a good job, and he took Jovan Hubbard's picture. He's on the story that I wrote today about the transfer portal. Jovan's a recruiting director over there. Does a good job, great job, not good, but I ran Jovan yesterday at the press conference. Sam's got a good recruiting staff in place, and I don't, it's easy not to rank them high because they didn't finish well, and that's what some of the recruiting rankings going to. But believe me, they hit on that portal class. They really did. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt or something. I mean,
this is like last year. CCP Bucks firmly believe last year's 8-4 season resulted from lack of effort, not talent. If Pitt, T. Will, and CBP can get maximum effort, this team could easily flip their record to 8-4. And I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think the offensive coordinator last year was just a disaster. I think they lost confidence in them. I think 7 or 8 wins is very possible this year. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you they're going to go 14-0, 12-0. They're not. But I'm going to sit here and try to tell you they're going to win 10 games. But I can sit here and tell you I think 7 or 8 wins with this team. If things, but it's going to be. Here's the key. You've got to start off September well, and I'm counting UAPB as September. I know it's August 29th. I get that, but you go to Little Rock, you play UAPB, you come back, you go to Stillwater the following Saturday. That gives you 9 days to get ready for Oklahoma State. Go to Oklahoma State, you come back, you host UAB, only Fayetteville game of the 5 games in September. Then you go to Auburn, then you go to Arlington to play A&M. If they can come out of that with 3 or 4 wins out of that 5-game stretch in September, they're going to be a very good team. They're going to be dangerous, But if they come out 2-3, we'll see. But if they come out 3-2 or better, they're going to be a dangerous team. Remember, I said that. If you don't remember anything else I said, remember, if they come out of September 3-2 or better, they're going to be a very dangerous football team.
All right, we're going to mark it April 14th, 2024.
Yep.
That Otis
open to it, because I'm telling you, if they can beat Oakland, that would require them beating UAPB and UAB, and then either beating to get minimal of 3. They would have to beat Oklahoma State there, or beat Auburn there, or beat A&M in Arlington. So that's how you get to 3. If you get to 4, it could be a phenomenal year. But 3 wins or more in September, and they're going to be okay.
Yep, they will be. Well, Otis, let's get you out of here. And I know you got a lot to do today, too, as well. Again, thoughts go out to John James, our photographer. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Make sure go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you stay up to date with all of the information that Hogville, the group at Hogville puts out. If you set the alert, anytime any of us go live, it will pop up on your phone as a force notification so that you can tune in at any time. You can also find all of our times on Facebook and Twitter, and it's also posted on the hogville.net website on the message board. So make sure to go over, follow us on Twitter, and get all the information. It's always free. There's maybe some things coming around the corner that we might be offering to folks here in the near future. Got to get some things hammered out first. Don't want to really go public with that quite yet. But make sure to go over, get all the free content that you guys want to watch, listen, subscribe, get all that stuff. Otis, thank you for joining us today, and y'all take care and go Hogs.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.